Hey all, welcome to part 2 of episode 15 of Benchwarmers, a WOSO podcast. Today, it is a Friday morning, the sun is shining and the UCL is thriving as we just finished the last, not the last match day, the penultimate match day. 5 games played. We're looking at the table right now. Leggy, Arsenal in 8th. What am I looking at? The Menso UCL right now.
The Menso UCL is first.
I mean, of the 2010s. I mean, I'm looking like this is your old school realm, the Arsene Wenger era of Arsenal. But
this
how
is
do you feel
Arsenal.
about the table right now?
I'm feeling so fine. I'm feeling so fine. You have to understand, this is how Arsenal roll now. You know, I may hate the underdog status, but it did get us the Champions League last year. So comfortable in 8th. I think we could probably get to 4th by the end of the game week, honestly.
Yeah, the last round is a doozy, especially with like the matchups, how they're operating. But we'll get to the preview eventually, as we're going to cover match day 5, which has been quite a whirlwind of interesting games between some of the top sides, some of the climbing pot 3, pot 2 sides. Real Madrid hosting VFL Wolfsburg at the Estadio Di Stefano, as Real Madrid, I mean, this is such a weird game just on optics. Just if you look at the scorecard, the score sheet, you have a 2-0 win with 9 players, 2 red cards in this game for Real Madrid. But the start of this game was incredibly feisty. I felt like VFL came and tried to mount some pressure. Real Madrid were playing around them and trying to open up some chances through the middle of the park, whereas VFL were trying to hug the bylines. But it was Maria Mendes, of all characters in this game, to break the deadlock in the 18th minute.
If we're going to go like set pieces, I mean, I think Mendes is probably your best bet.
But that's what Quesada did. I'm very surprised that he took on the German side and he thought, you know what, we're going to beat them in the air. We're going to beat them with power. They had a few corners early, and then there were some deadly set pieces in this first half. That Stina Johannes, I mean, if you're any other team coming up against VFL right now, I would use Quesada's method. This is the blueprint, because they could not deal with any of the forward near post runs. Maria Mendez's goal went in the 18th, but Redondo headers the ball into the post in the 38th, and then a deeper cross from Navarro ends up
in
being
43rd minute.
Yeah, exactly. No. Ended up being parried away by Stina Johannes. Like, it was very shaky. I felt like VFL's backline was incredibly stagnant and maybe a step behind. You've got to be able to read corners. I understand set pieces are very hard to manage, and we've seen teams go through droughts where they just can't handle a set piece. But this is where you have to gamble. Set pieces are a gamble, and Quesada won those gambles every single time. There was no breakaway. There was no counterattacks that VFL could pounce on, especially in that first half. But the talk of the town in this game is the newly re-signed Linda Caicedo running the show, putting the Di Stefano fans on their feet every time she carried the ball. In the 22nd minute, the one where she starts in her own half, drives through. I think when she's on her carry and run, I don't know if there's a better player on their carry and run in terms of ball retention. Not necessarily getting into the best position for them to score, but no one can tackle her. She's got glue on her feet. It can be 2-3 defenders around her. She lives for it. It's absolutely mesmerizing to watch her do it. But Stina Johannes saved the first one. But we'll get to the second one eventually. But before that happens, there was a bit of a twist in the tail at the end of the first half where Klara ends up getting 2 yellows in 5 minutes. And you think to yourself, going into this second half, VFL would probably be going into the change rooms thinking, this is ours for the taking. They've got 10 players on the field. We're 1-0 down. We haven't really copped the goal. We haven't copped the scoreboard pressure that we deserve for the performance that Real Madrid gave in that first half. But it just didn't go that way in that second half. I don't know. Did you think that they could have done more, that their shots weren't good enough? What was the issue you were looking at?
I think if we look at the red card in and of itself, I think that was not endemic of Real Madrid's overall performance. They weren't scrappy. They weren't, overly feisty. They weren't going in for lunge tackles. I think that was basically just one player kind of a little bit went a little bit crazy for those
Screw
five
loose.
minutes. Yeah, and Bernstein does that. I mean, she does. She gets the ball and she actually kind of wants the pressure on her. And that lunging tackle is very endemic of a player that just wanted to get the ball as quickly as possible because they're scared of Wolfsburg's transitions. But honestly, I was surprised at just how much Wolfsburg gave the ball away. I was surprised at the midfield just not looking completely alien. Like it's like they'd never played together.
Yeah.
But as you said, Linda Caicedo, especially on the left, but also just like cutting through,
Through the center.
like
Oh my
through the
God.
center. Oh my God, it was just incredible. And Real Madrid loved those transitions. They did. They loved getting the ball deep within their own half and just letting Linda run onto them.
So the second
Yeah.
half, VFL had 12 shots to 3, and the 3 shots that Real Madrid had were all the highest chances of the game. But they were the best chances of that half by a mile, and it was because the locking up, the tight back 8 of Real Madrid didn't allow for any high percentage chances for VFL. You're having Janu Levels take pot shots. She's getting isolated on that left side. They're forcing the ball to her to try and get an early whip. And they're trying to look for perfect passes. And when you have a player like Pop in your arsenal, like you can't play perfect passes. The best parts of her game is scrappy goals. It's putting the defense on skates and trying to force the ball through and bully ball, and it just didn't look like that. And every time they made a mistake with those perfect passes, that's where the counter-attack began, and Caroline Weir ends up playing this spectacular ball through with a defender on her back, and it goes to Caicedo, and finally Caicedo gets on that run again, and she takes it around the keeper and puts it into the net, and Dijkstra slides past the ball. It's such a good finish. It's reminiscent, as I said, of Bunny Shaw versus Barca last year. That was the same kind of goal. It's the same kind of composure and the same kind of stature of player in terms of their stature in the game, not their physical stature, but they're match winners. Linda Caicedo can just put Real Madrid on her back at times, and there were moments where you thought she was going to do it again. Like she ran through just after a goal, only 7 minutes later, and sets up Caroline Weir. And I mean, we'd back Caroline Weir to score that 98 times out of 100, and she looked visibly frustrated when she shot that just over the bar. And then, I mean, Ira Santiago, the super sub, one of the super subs for Real Madrid, ends up sliding into Stina Johannes really badly and rightfully getting sent off. So 9 players in the 92nd minute for Real Madrid on the field, and nothing that VFL could do, and Quesada celebrating rightfully across this game, especially when Caicedo's second goal went in. That was like a huge celebration from the manager's dugout, and rightfully so. A goal with 10 men to settle the game. This is a Real Madrid side that is serious, whether the league is in contention or not, but they are sitting in 5th. They have Twente next, which you would kind of back them in to settle some points and try and look at top 4, sitting on the same goal difference as Juve, obviously 1 goal less. But this is a Real Madrid side that wants instant qualification. Don't give yourself any chance of playing a playoff. But VFL now sitting in 7th with Chelsea left to go. This may be a tough run for them in the back half after starting really well in the Champions League.
I think that Wolfsburg are kind of struggling with the overall like state of how much football is going on at the moment. I think they're feeling a bit overwhelmed. I
The
don't
youngsters
necessarily,
as
yeah, I've
well.
said this before when talking about Wolfsburg. It's always been the depth for me. I think that the players that they have are the players that can win things, but I don't think if we're going, especially in this league phase, match game on match game, and it's basically a League 2.0, but you're facing, some of Europe's best, it's going to be tough. And I don't actually think they're going to get thrashed against Chelsea. I don't think necessarily they'll win against Chelsea, but I think it'll be a tighter game than we think, mostly because I also don't necessarily trust Chelsea to play against this German style of football that Wolfsburg tried to play against Real Madrid. But I think Real Madrid just kind of knew exactly how they wanted to play against this Wolfsburg side.
Well, also, Chelsea are playing Wolfsburg at Wolfsburg, so it's an away game. If you look at their fixtures that they've been successful in the Champions League so far, playing Barcelona at home, and we're going to move to Roma at some point, and we'll talk about that game. But that's a home game. It's easy to do it at the Stamford Bridge or Boreham Wood or wherever you play. But when it comes to going away from home, that's when they've struggled, and that's when they played Twente, right? It's harder to do it on those away days midweek, but it'll be a very, very entertaining game. That's definitely one of the marquee games of next week, especially even if Wolfsburg lose it, they are qualified in a sense, and whoever they come up against in the playoff game to get into the knockout stages, they'll give anyone a go. It doesn't really matter what form they're in. They're not an easy side to come up against. But Real Madrid have given a little bit of a blueprint, and I wonder if Sonia kind of adopts that, because their set pieces have been relatively poor this year. So maybe if they can get some aerial threats through the likes of Millie Bright, through the likes of Sam Kerr, but there are questions.
I'm thinking more about Alyssa, like just letting Alyssa Thompson run down the wing like Linda did. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. They've got players, and we'll talk about their successful result in a second. But we're going to get to this team right here, Lyon, battering United at United's home ground, which is crazy. People with Unity Stadium are no longer unified after a 3-0 smashing. But, I mean, what did you think when you saw this United line? This is what you said as well. This is what you said. You said don't hedge your bets. You know the Champions League is probably top four is probably not in contention, and you've got to focus on the league more. And I think Skinner heard you, even though we haven't released the pod yet. But this is insane.
I mean,
seeing George in the lineup against Lyon, I was like, oh my god, Ada might have a field day here. But
I was surprised at the players he took out. I really was. I thought he'd do more changes with the front line and maybe the flanks, but I was surprised about completely shaking up that midfield. I mean, taking Olmo out is like basically taking out the player that you want your stability and the player that you want your distribution and your defensive covering. It's like Arsenal taking out Mariano. It just makes no sense. I think that they went into this game already knowing that they were going to get beaten. It was kind of like how much can we really settle this below maybe hopefully 10 goals, like Lyon really looked like they wanted to score. I mean, Ada looked like she wanted to score. I mean, I don't know which Manchester United player told
set her off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I mean, I think physicality was massive on the part of Lyon. I mean, it's just I know that Skinner wanted to, like, he said before the game he wanted physicality to be like the defining factor in his midfield, but especially in the final third, it's just they were bullied off the ball. It was woeful.
Big time. And look, I'm going to give some United players their plaudits because it could have been 4-5-0. Jade Riviere stopped about 3 goals in that first 15-minute flurry. And then, I mean, you can argue whether Tullis Joyce could have done better for that first goal, Chewinga's header, but I feel like it was tough. It was a great whip.
Side of the foot, sort of very.
It was like it curled across. It was a very nice curl across, and it went through Ada and ended up a low diving, like hard to get header. That's why I don't think Tullis Joyce expected Chewinga to get down that far, especially with Dumornay trying to kick it, and she ended up being injured after that goal. But it is a good header and opened up the scoring for Lyon. But, I mean, this is where United have to take their chances, and this is where, I mean, my criticism of Mallard ages like fine wine, whereas if she's not on, they have no switch. They have no switch on who's the player that's going to get them back into this game. And when you don't play Jess Park, when you don't have Ella Toon on the field, you don't have the match winners on, and you don't have the consistent goal scorer firing, because that header should be going in every time for you. If Mallard is going to be the player that United want her to be, that's as good a chance as you're going to get against Lyon. No chance you're going to get a better one than that. And she heads it over the bar, and from that moment, you kind of knew Lyon won't let that happen again. And I mean, while I'd say there was some good defensive moments from Riviere and Janssen, and they stopped Ada from really getting that far into the box with some penetration.
I think the opposite. I think what we saw was Ada was a little bit off when it came to basically that first half and scoring chances that I would have seen her score in her prime, and sure, you can say, okay, well, she's not in her prime anymore, okay, but Kototo would have scored those, I believe. I genuinely think the opportunities that Manchester United allowed Lyon to have, and it was efforts by my Letitia, Riviere, like right at the split moment, which a game changing, if you like. I mean, it didn't change the outcome of this game, but I think it was the fact that it went to the final ditch effort every time that Lyon went forward to stop them. And I think you're right. I think Mallard should have gotten a better head on that goal. I think women's football right now is in a tough spot with headering. I mean, we can go into my game a bit later, but
I mean, I feel like they would take. I feel like Skinner, with the makeshift squad she had in with Awujo and Nelson. I mean, that was the plan, right? So if they'd weather some sort of storm, and then they brought on Tooney, Ziggy, and Park at the 46th, thinking, I mean, let's try and mount a comeback in the second half, have the fitness, have the freshness, and it was, I would say, ultimately the antithesis of that, in the sense of
they're not super subs. They don't come on. You don't bring Ziggy onto a game.
No.
Tooney, for some intensive purposes, has levels of
match-winning
qualities and super sub qualities, but it depends when you play her. And then in and of herself, I think, Jess Park is probably the most super sub of those. But even as a super sub, you can attest to this, not the best.
No, her best patches of form for us and for United are on the field at the start of a game and building into a game. And that was the most Jess Park City performance I've seen, which is that ghosty, waiting, knocking it about, sideways, backwards. But we are not doing any service to the fact that in the second half of this second half, Lyon just turned into the Lion. They turned United's stadium into a lion's den, and they put it to bed for good. And Melky Dumornay. All right, we're gonna do this properly, because we can just say she ended up with a brace in 9 minutes at the end of this game. But these two goals are not the story. The story is that she created the most chances this game. She scored the most chances. She had the best dribble percentage. She ran through everyone. She is, I mean, if it weren't for Giraldez's fitness regime, where they just rotate and rotate and rotate, and they give everyone the license so that no one gets injured under the Giraldez regime, we'd be talking about a Ballon d'Or run right here. This player is seriously just so powerful in the box. The passing, so it's not just the shooting. The strikes, the two goals, firstly, the first one is an absolute rocket.
Julie Brand, best assist ever.
I mean, it is, it is one of those moments. It is just an unbelievable pass to Melky's tap in. But you could put 3 Tallis Joyces and a Saf Patel in the goal, and that ball still goes in. It's such a rocket. And by the way, the comms did no justice on that goal. But the second one as well is a close range kind of tap in, and it's played across to her. But also, that ball across is unnecessarily finished in the top bins, right?
That was a fantastic cross, though. I think the thing that's underrated.
Diani's ball. Diani's ball across is magnificent.
The thing that's underrated about Lyon is their intentionality. Everything they do has a purpose. They attack with purpose. They retreat and they go back with purpose. Everything is to make a goal, I think. And Lyon have always been like that. They're not a team that game manages. They're a team that wants to score goals. And I think I'd put Dumornay in the Ewa ranks of, if you like to call it Ballon d'Or runs, or just like inevitability, where you kind of think, okay, these are players that on their day in the box, no one's saving their goals. But
it's not just in the box, though.
I know it's not just in the box. But
it's from distance. It's playing across. It's when she's fresh and fit and firing. Her separation when she dribbles. It's almost Caicedo-like, but also I actually think off 5 steps she's faster than Caicedo. This is also the only kind of year that she can win the Ballon d'Or with no international competitions, because ultimately Haiti, you have a different category of looking at a player when there's an international tournament on and she's not involved in it, and you just forget about her. But the reality is, in all the big games so far, so she packs in United when she needs to. Against your lot at Meadow Park, packed you in as well and took the chances. I don't know about that.
I think we gave her a lot of goals.
But she was the press. She was the ignition, and then she scores that absolute smash her into the top bins. Like, she's going to do it in the big games. And with Barca slightly hamstrung with injuries, I think Lyon are the favourites. If Lyon win the UCL and she keeps doing what she's doing, she's the only player who's marginally close to Klara Buhl in terms of, like, match ratings, not necessarily goal contributions, but chances created, progressive stats. She'd be my pick for the jewel in the crown of the Lyon attack or the Lyon midfield. If they win a quadruple, which is what they're looking to do, cool. This is the player to look at as the king of the jungle and the king of the lions. Like, she is so good to watch, and she's so impactful regardless of GA, and then she's scoring big goals to settle Lyon. They get 1-0 up very early and then they get a bit shaky. That even happened with the Arsenal game, where I think there were moments where Arsenal could get back in and Dumornay went, no, that's not happening, and we're gonna do it. And I think she can play in midfield, she can play in the 10, she can play on the right. You could probably put her up front if they didn't have two of the top 5 strikers in the world on their day. She is just a complete, like, she's the fear factor, I think, in Lyon. When I think about their players, I think, you know what, Diani goes missing a little bit, Brand goes missing, Ada you can get to, but you're not going to be able to stop her off 2 steps. Melky Dumornay is my pick in the top 5 for Lyon, at least.
Fair enough, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I can't argue with that. I feel like I think she's done the role that Katoto probably would have wanted to do in terms of game winning. Yeah. But I think yeah, if anything, it'll be anti-French league bias. It'll be pro WSL.
I can't wait till some Yank finishes above her in the Ballon rankings.
Trini Rodman best second half.
Ewa and Melky not in the top 10 because Polish and Haitian, like, far out, just like so dog. This is the Ballon for us. It creates debate. It creates people like us screaming at people, people like them going, how can you not put this girl who's on this generation? I think this is the generational run for her. This is what puts her name on the sheet. And I think we've got to start talking more about her. A 2-2 between Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich. Quite an interesting game to watch. I feel like very much a moments game, a very back and forth with 29 shots between the two sides. Bayern having 17, but only like 3 on target, and then Atleti having 7 on target, but with clearer cut chances, but obviously only 12 shots. But Atleti, again, similar to Real Madrid, I feel like these Spanish teams just try and use their size against these German operators, which is the antithesis of everything we know to be about the respective nations' tactics. But when you have players like Garcia and the back line, I forgot her name, who headed that first chance for Atleti, but it was an absolute monster header, but it got very well saved by Marmutovic. And then, I mean, the game opens up early with Vigos Dottir, a handball
funniest handball
caught by VAR very respectively, and actually incredibly slowly. But I mean, that's what happens. I mean, I hate VAR, but still, it's there and it's a penalty.
It's there. What do you mean?
It's there, but it's slow. It ruins the momentum of the game. It slowed everything down. I actually think it hampered Atletico's like actual run and carry of the ball.
They did. I thought that they played quite well immediately after the penalty. I think Bayern inevitably gained some momentum through Klara Buhl, but
that comes later. But Boarissa's penalty is very good, and she's a fantastic penalty taker. She just sent Marmutovic the wrong way, and she did that straight run up to the ball. None of this inverted rubbish. But then Damjanovic, Dahlmann start waking up. There's a big chance for Dahlmann, who puts it wide, and then Damjanovic hits this worldie of a volley that ruptures the crossbar, and then the follow-up is sprayed by Caruso, ending the half 1-0. But then the second half, I mean, this is where it all kicks off, really. So we have another VAR moment where Klara Buhl finally gets some space on the left side to do her run and carry, but this ball gets kicked into Lloris's hand. She does not put her hand. I know her hand is outstretched, but she just gets a ball bulleted at her hand, and it's just. I mean, I hate these.
Why is your hand up there?
Why is your hand up there? Because she's running. Because she's running, Leggy.
No,
when
defending
you run,
101.
Yeah, no. I understand. We want armless defenders in the league.
Yes.
I'm so excited for it. But you know what? Ball don't lie, because the penalty from Julia Gwynn goes over the bar. There was a bit of rigmarole on the. I don't know if you saw on the line before the penalty, the Atleti player trying to psych her out, which was so funny, and clearly it worked. But I mean, she skied that way over the bar. But good to see her teammates get around her, and good to see Bayern not let that penalty overshadow the game, especially with the Klara Buhl show turning up similar time to the Arsenal game of yonder now. But the Klara Buhl show starts in the 62nd minute as she creates like 5 chances in this last 28 minutes of the game. She had 7 chances created for the game, 2 assists. The first one for Pernille Harder as she plays the ball. I don't actually think this is Harder's goal, to be honest. I don't know why they've given the goal to Pernille Harder, because she hits this off target and it deflects into the goal. Like, there's no way that shot was on target. If anyone wants to watch that back and convince me otherwise. But Klara Buhl sets her up on the half turn, and it's a great move. It's a good shot to get through the traffic, but it is a lucky deflection. But that's what happens once she gets one. If you start getting Klara Buhl the separation and width that she needs, she can start cutting you up and weaving in and out. And then the second assist is much better. Puts Pernille on a platter as she sticks her foot out. It goes through. It's an amazing goal, amazing team movement. They go 2-1 up in the 77th minute, and you kind of think to yourself, this is Bayern securing UCL top 4. This is very dangerous for Atletico. And then the twist in the tail, 88th minute, the last player you want to leave in Atletico Madrid on the edge of the box, and they just thought, you know what, let's do it. But Luani, another brilliant assist to a tap in. But this is an absolute rocket as well. This is, it's not necessarily Dumornay's, but it's a ripping strike from 25 yards post and Byron in actually, and saves the point for Atleti. Leuven are safe and Atleti will be too, but against Lyon, that might be, that goal difference might come in handy to stay ahead of Leuven. That's what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah, you're playing Leuven, but they're playing Lyon, so I think Lyon will do more hampering to their goal difference than you will do to Leuven. But it's about 10 difference in goals. So I think the top 12 is relatively set up in a way with Vålerenga coming up against Bayern. Yeah, so it's a little bit of jeopardy in the last round, but I think more of the question is about the playoff games than it is about the qualification at this point. And the same goes as we move across to a team like yours. Arsenal are in the running now. They're safe, they're secure, they're sound. I feel like you needed to win this game to get off the mark in the UCL, set the standard back about what you need to do. And this is what happens when you're a pot one side. You get the lesser teams at the back end to settle the score. I feel like you got Lyon out of the way, you got a few of the bigger the Bayern game out of the way, and now you can play the pot 3, pot 4 sides and show your class.
I just find it disappointing that in both of those games you were kind of in it though, especially the Bayern game. I think that one it still stings. I think Bayern games
the first half specifically,
because we should have easily closed out like 5-0 by half time. But no, I think this game to me was a bit of a nothing game. I think Renee will be happy with the result. I think any fan will be happy with the result, but I'm a bit frustrated as always about only winning 1-0 against Twente, who, to be fair, it's not for everyone beating Twente. Chelsea famously, they like to
it's so famous. That 1-1 is so famous.
They like to hide it under the carpet that was, because that to me is very much the start of Chelsea's downfall. But whatever, it's not for anyone beating Twente. But we had some changes. Clover in for Marnham. I don't really know what to say. It's like I don't know what Renee wants. It's like you're replacing.
We know she doesn't want Marnham.
But Marnham will leave, and we will have one less midfielder, and we're stuck with Mariona and the Mary squad and Kim Little.
Marnham to Madrid. I
Don't
could
even.
see it. I can see
Don't.
her in a rail kit, to be fair.
It's just be like, it just no. Anyway,
The
anyway,
reverse Odegaard. That's what I'm seeing right now.
but no, Fox out as well. I'm happy because Fox needs a break, but I'm also sad because I
Great
don't
shout.
see Fox in my team, but that's fine. McCabe was in. McCabe did really well, I think.
This
Particularly
best game of the year so far for McCabe. She is building into this season a little
I
bit
don't think
more
it was
now.
her best game. I just thought that it was a game that she needed very much to stamp her kind of self because we were always going to be playing far more down either channel. And I always think that if you're going to have Smith and Hines on at the same time, you're pretty much like you're going to choose a side automatically. But I was happy with Katie. I think the 4-3-3 against a 4-3-3 will always help, and I think that kind of showed early on when we started to pretty much assert ourselves very physically in the final third. I mean, Beth Mead, I think, funny enough, I think this is arguably Beth Mead's best game, even though even though,
Oh,
like,
in the
think about it.
UCL maybe,
In the
yeah.
UWCL, I think it was her best game of the season, right? Because to me, you're looking at a player who very much wanted to score, and in the first even for 10 minutes, she had two chances, and then she finally swats one in. Yeah, it was deflected, whatever. But like, she put herself in positions where she actually wanted to get a goal. And I think that you saw that very much so with how we were not less wide and far more narrow, so we were more direct towards goal. But yeah, if anything, I'm just more frustrated about the same habits of complacency in the final third and our players all getting the same symptoms of midfielditis because no one wants to score a goal.
I mean, this was the game management mode that I predicted against in the WSL,
Yeah.
but I am impressed with Renee, like not necessarily in terms of like tactical structure and how you create combinations and chances, but the man management, I think she knew when to start Mead. All Arsenal fans know that Mead isn't the player you play against the best sides. She's the
But the
player.
thing is that she does. Ben, she does play against the best side. She plays
No,
against
no,
the
no,
best
no, no,
sides,
no.
she plays against the
I'm
worst
saying
sides.
but I'm saying this should be the indicator, right?
I
That
think
you're
so.
playing Twente, you're playing Leicester, you're playing the bottom of the barrel or the medium bottom of the respective competitions. Bring on the experience. Bring on the player who you know will create chances, make chances for herself, put her name on the team sheet early or set someone up early, and then we'll fade out of the game, and then you can bring her off, and that's fine. But I mean that's up to you, and that's up to Renee about how she wants to manage minutes.
I
But the
just get
reality
frustrated
is,
because we have like it's not like we had the depth necessarily in this game. I mean, Collie Kelly is obviously out for the rest of the year, so it's not like we could just change flanks on the whim. But I found that when you're bringing on players like Caitlin Ford, Kim Little, and Marnham, that's you're bringing on experience. I kind of wish the opposite. I kind of wish we'd take off experience and then put a KCC into this game, put a Steiner on earlier, just because they're the players that will open up the game more because those players, Kim Little particularly, is a player where you want that game management from because she's so settled in that 6-8 position. So I don't know. I feel like you're kind of limiting yourself if you're putting on the players that have impact usually early on in the game and then sit back for the rest of it.
yeah, but I agree with that 100%. I just think specifically for Mead, I think the next game you play against Leuven, I think this is also her bread and butter. She gets in behind. You don't have to be the fastest or the most like acceleratory player. You just have to do what she does for 30-40 minutes, get your team off the mark, and then you can start experimenting and fitness managing because ultimately you'll be in the running, you'll be close to the top four. Whether you'll be in the top four or not is questionable based on fixtures, but ultimately, I mean, I actually think the biggest talking point for Arsenal is Annika Borba and the fact that you guys just do not have. I mean, if she goes down, we have big issues ahead. And I mean,
Hey, you dissing our 17-year-old goalkeeper goat
yes, I am
from the
dissing your
academy? Are you
17-year-old
kidding me?
goalkeeper because ultimately the situation has to manage itself. You have to have a goalie who's playing each week, and you have to have a player that you can trust. And ultimately, I don't know when DVD is respectively back. Zins is out for a very, very long while.
Well, she's done her ACL,
Yeah.
so
Is
I don't
there
expect it.
I believe there's an Arsenal goalkeeper out on loan, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like
I don't think
there's
so.
an
I'm
attempt
trying
to
to think. I don't
recall.
think so.
There's an attempt to recall someone. I don't know if they're on loan or you've got rid of a keeper recently. but ultimately there needs to be some sort of January investment in a second keeper.
Well,
And you've been
for it.
yapping for time about a specific keeper. Is this the time? Bring her in.
Well, I want
The
folk in.
folklore.
Yeah, I want the folklore in. I want her in because Sweden's best keeper, like
Yeah.
domestically best keeper. Also, I mean, bring Sweden back to Arsenal. We need the Swedish
Well, you're
injection.
going to
We
get
don't do
Smilla
anything without
Holmberg
them.
anyway, so
Oh, yeah, I know, but I mean, can Smilla Holmberg playing goals? Is she
I
playing goals
reckon
if we
I
need her?
reckon a very successful transfer window for Arsenal would be bringing in
Yeah.
Bar, Schroeder, Holmberg, Anderson, and Falk. Bring
I think
Sweden, make Arsenal Sweden again.
No, I think about and if we go
Rosa
into
again, Rosa as well.
we go into the Chelsea game just
Yeah,
quickly, like I
yeah,
think about Chelsea's bench and who they have. I mean, they have Hannah Hampton, she's out, so they bring in Peng, but then
yeah,
on the bench they have Spence. Like,
yeah.
I'm not
They
saying
have
world
enough.
class
They have enough
goalkeepers.
to
They
no, but
have
they have
enough.
enough to hold
Yeah.
on to. And I mean, if we're going to talk about their Swede who finally turned up in the season, and this is the beginning. This is what JRK does. She'll have a few weeks or a month or so, and she's like not on the sheet. And now I'm telling you now, anyone who has WSL fantasy or UCLW fantasy, bring this girl in now because the stonks are only going to get higher. But this game was at Stamford Bridge, and I don't know
This
why.
is the best. No, I love Chelsea for this because they purposely shoot themselves in the foot when they call like this is the epitome of small club mentality. So you have Bournemouth or wherever you can
Yes,
play at
Kings
your
Meadow,
small,
yeah.
yeah, Kings Meadow. You can play wherever you like at any academy training pitch you like, but you choose the small games to play at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
Like the levels of stupidity here by Chelsea's management
It
are
made it look really. It made the crowd look a bit
no,
sus.
this
And
isn't.
it,
No, this
yeah.
is a very typical Chelsea crowd. Let's not get it
No, no, no,
twisted.
no.
This is
But
a
at
very
Kingswood, it would look packed. It would look good, and it just didn't look good there. And it's a shame because they were back to winning ways. This was what we expected to happen. Sadly, it wasn't a Chelsea player getting them off the mark. It was Bergamaschi, the hero of Roma earlier in the weekend, setting up a beautiful header into her own net, with Sandy playing a deadly, deadly ball across the box.
Sandy was on the wing, yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
Neve Charles was on the left because, I mean, this is the exact kind of game you play Neve Charles in with a bit more comfort. And actually, Neve Charles had a fantastic game, to be honest.
I agree.
But Baltimore was excellent further forward. Shock, horror, Sonia. We didn't realize that one. But I mean, I'm going to be incredibly crude and critical of Samantha Kerr here because
Yep.
there is a time where she heads that ball in. There's a time where she scores a multitude of chances she gets across this game, and there is. I mean, as we said, you said it before. The 3 dimensions has become 2. I said that the heading is gone, but it's now the shot variability. It's the timing. It's the improvisation of Sam Kerr, the amount of goals she got acrobatically or just changing the distance, changing the angle, faking out the goalie, the way Caicedo ran around Stina Johannes, that's what I'm expecting. Like, I mean, I know Sam isn't the fastest, but Sam has timing. Sam has good breaks usually, and she's able to whip around goalies. She's able to make goalies look silly, and it just didn't happen this game. And for Roma to have a 6-0 loss to Chelsea and Sam Kerr not be on the score sheet, I think marks a bigger issue for Bompastor's team because Aggie Beaver-Jones isn't taking shots against teams like Everton, and that's crazy, having an hour of Aggie and no shots, and she can create chances, but that's not what Aggie is for. She's there to bury goals like she did in the first month, but obviously she's playing with lesser confidence now that there is a rotation between the two, and I think she is counting the days until the Colombian maestro that is Mayra Ramirez comes back, albeit not an entirely clinical finisher, but provides a level of speed, athleticism that Aggie and Sam can no longer provide. And I think, yeah, that will be interesting.
So Sam had 4 shots, 2 big chances missed.
Yeah.
And to me, I thought that the worst one, you think it's the aerial one. I think it's actually the one on the ground. I
No,
believe
the
it
one on
was.
the ground is worse. I was going to get to that one, definitely. No
Because
question
I
about
just,
it.
to me, Sam Curry is looking like a player who wants the ball fed to her in a way that she can just tap goals in now. Like, and that is not the Sam Kerr that I remember. That is not the Sam Kerr that Chelsea need.
Any WOSO fan in history remembers, and
Because-
look, her legacy still lasts. Like, you have people who, if you ask someone who doesn't watch the WSL but watches remnants, fragments of football, and they ask you who the best striker is, if you ask them, they would say, "Oh, Sam Kerr is probably one of the best players in WOSO still." This is not that Sam Kerr that we're talking about. This is not
Sam Kerr that looks
2022
tired.
anymore.
This is a Sam Kerr that looks kind of fed up with the fact that her quality is not matching that of what it used to be. It reminds me a little bit of like post ACL Viv, where it was like, you know, she wants to go back to the form that was, and you kind of have to realize within yourself that it's never going to come back.
Nothing was the same. Nothing was the same.
Yeah, it's very existential, but football is incredibly finite, and especially your form. And as I've said to you before, and as you said on the pod, the fact that she did multiple injuries in a row during the peak of her time does have an effect that when you come back, you're never going to reach that peak again. It took you yonks to get there in the first place, and now you're 2 years older and in a team that doesn't facilitate the ball to you the way that Emma Hayes' ball did. It's a team that actually likes the ball to be cut back, a team that, like Hamano's goal, for example.
But the press that they're doing, she can't press the same way. But Nuskin can. Nuskin was amazing. sets up Kerr on a platter, and that was the one she just whacked straight into the goalie. And that's not like, we're watching Sam Kerr get insignificant goals against Villa or Leicester or whatever, wherever she plays. It's not opening the scoring. It's not who do we look to. It's that this is a different output. But ultimately, there were moments for other players to do it, and even for her, like early on in this game, Macario whips her an absolute peach. 2 years ago, that's in the net. And then there's no jeopardy in this game when you're already 2-0 up, because like JRK sets up Captain's goal, and then, but if I'm thinking about the Asia Cup, like you've got to be firing somewhat before this big tournament. This is a big tournament for Sam Kerr to prove a lot of people like us wrong, that players like Holly Mack are better for Jomo, are better for the system, are better for other players around her. And look, there were moments, I will give Sam Kerr the minuscule moments of credit where she had a nice header down to, I believe it was Captain, who it didn't end up finishing it up. But like it's later on. It's later on in the game. You're already 3-0 up. You've got to be for the green and gold. I just hope you play a different game for the way you're playing in a blue kit right now.
I think the best example of it was the fact that she's on the pitch, you're the striker, and you're not taking a penalty. Like,
yep.
I know that Nuskin is particularly a penalty expert. I know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hate to kind of go back to Menso and kind of the Arsenal effect and the Kai Havertz effect, but we've seen it work. You know, you give a penalty to a player.
That's that Make-A-Wish stuff.
No, you give a player the penalty and you give them time to find their feet. You give them that hope and that glimmer of hope that it's at Stamford Bridge. Like, if anywhere you want Sam Kerr to be scoring her first Champions League goal back at Stamford Bridge, and they give it to Nuskin. And I'm like, that sucks. Like, at that point, you know that you're going to win upwards of 5-0.
Yeah.
Like,
get her on the sheet, and she could have had she had a did she have a brace against Twente, Sam Kerr? And they were good finishes, and that's the kind of thing. Once she gets one, she usually gets two or three, and this is the game where, I don't know, she used to be magnificent, you know. You used to be great. I'm waiting for all the edits of when Sam inevitably like ends up on the bench when Ramirez is there. It's like, what happened to you? But anyway, it's okay, because there was some amazing moments for Chelsea in this second half. You spoke a little bit about Hamano's goal, but it's all about Millie Bright's ping and then Goro Wrighton's takedown, setting it up. It's a perfect move. Roma really offered very little.
I have absolutely no idea who turned up. Was it Roma? Was it their B team? Was it a bunch of Romas?
It's Roma's UCL. This is Roma's prime UCL performance. This is what they've been doing all year in the UCL. This is the antithesis of their league form. They're going for the Feminile A, clearly, and they rode this off ages ago, unlike Juventus, who we'll get to at some point. But the other interesting goal of this game was Lucy Bronze's quote-unquote mesmerising chip.
I don't know.
to make it 6-0.
Did you think that was across? I thought it was. I thought it was very.
She didn't celebrate like it was a chip. She didn't celebrate it like she aimed that. That's why I think.
No, but I'm thinking back to, I believe it was the first game against Villa last season, her first game for Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she scored a very similar goal. Okay. So I know that she has it in her locker.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, to be fair, I don't really care if it's luck or skill. It's a great finish and it's a great goal, and it put them 6-0 up. It was too easy for them. And look, puts them in the driver's seat. The goal difference that they desperately needed. The top 4 qualification is on the cards if they beat VFL next week, which is probably what they want. They want some rest. They want some time. They don't have to play a playoff game against a team who arguably may want it more than them. And especially with some of their form questions regarding the league, you'd wonder whether this is exactly what they need. They're going to go big and hard and hungry for VFL.
Wouldn't it be funny if the year that they don't win the league is the year that they finally win the Champions League?
No, I mean, what do you mean, Leggy? You want to cast back to episode 1 where I said that Chelsea won't win the league, but they will win the UCL. That's exactly what I said. But I also think if they're going to win it, they're going to win it with a striker that's going to do it, and I don't know who that is just yet. Around the grounds, very quickly, we had Vålerenga obviously copping a home loss to Paris FC. Paris FC looking much better, 22 shots in this game to 3.
With 1 goal.
Yeah, I mean, but just the way in which it was played, it could have easily been more, but it was a late pen in the 82nd minute. But their midfield, I think Paris FC's midfield is going to get absolutely carcassed in the transfer window because they're so good. I actually think they're so good. They've built this little trio, and I mean Lamogodek and Koroshek. She is just this unbelievable player, but Mateo inverts into that centre and they get that diamond between their midfield. But I wonder whether Koroshek, as that 6 progressing to 8, I wonder if she'll get mopped up with the lack of 6s around, the amount of 6s that are injured in WOSO right now. I think
that the Arkema is going to become more of a league of graduates than a profoundly fantastic league. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more players coming out of Arkema and going to the WSL, going to Liga F, going to the Frauen.
Or they go to Lyon, and that's what happens.
Yeah, well, that's the history of the Arkema. I mean, the best players just inevitably go to
the history of the Lyon.
But if we go quickly onto PSG as well, I mean, I saw a lot of discourse. I mean, and it's been the discourse.
Oh
PSG.
My God, Jesus!
Oh my, PSG, this fantastic team, this massive team. What's happened to them? We don't know the history of PSG, and specifically the last 3 years. 2 years ago, they made a semi-final, and I can really appreciate that. But I mean, if we're going over the last 2 years, this is not a fantastic team that's Champions League worthy, that's going to mount any sort of pressure. And I think the discourse is right on the fact that Karchaoui is carrying this team. There is barely anyone there other than Karchaoui willing to put the team on their backs, because it seems like everyone's looking to Karchaoui for the goal, for the distribution, for the defensive efforts, whilst everyone sits and plays as a passenger to the Karchaoui FC.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking at PSG, I mean, I think PSG and Roma have very similar story arcs in the sense of that their league form is progressing and firing on all cylinders, and they are actually mounting a challenge to Lyon in the league. But their UCL form has been a disaster, and Leuven will take. This was the chance for PSG not necessarily to make because they were on nothing, but to shape this UCL campaign. But Leuven will gladly take a draw in Paris, and a fantastic performance. They're resolute at the back. They work incredibly hard, and ultimately, with the last game on the line, they're going to, at home against your lot, they're going to make it very, very hard for you to score. You're going to have to hope you get there early and then just be able to. This is kind of the game you walk past, you take it. Whether you win 1-0 or 5-0, it doesn't really matter. 1-0 and move, I'd be pretty happy if I was an Arsenal fan, because Leuven are one of those bogey sides that I think are going to be around the UWCL for a bit now, with this being their first campaign ever in the UWCL is incredibly impressive.
Well, you talk about small club mentality, and you talked about Chelsea and their draw against Barca.
You said that. I'm just going to be clear.
No. You were the one that posited Chelsea's small club mentality.
I said it in regards to Barca. You said said it this episode.
But
Just making it clear.
I think that the biggest example of small club mentality is PSG celebrating after this game with their fans. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Leuven deserved to be doing laps around the Paris stadium.
Give Leuven a trophy for surviving this UCLW moment. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Their campaign has been an absolute one to watch. Similar to Juventus's run in the Champions League, where they either go toe-to-toe with a top titan of the UWCL, or they just batter the teams below them. And this is what they do, right? 23 shots, 12 on target, 5 in the net in a 5-0 victory. Girelli with a brace of penalties, Vangsgaard scoring early. There were just moments, and then Girelli, I mean, not getting the assists for these 4th and 5th goals, but it was nearly identical, the last 2 goals. The pass inlet, the dummy, and then the strike. It's just being levels ahead of other teams in this game. And St. Pölten are a relatively young side, and Girelli having the experience, the quality, and ultimately the match-winning capabilities and the conductive qualities to be able to deliver across the campaign so far. And I mean, it puts Juve in great stead at the moment. Juve are currently sitting 4th in the table with United left, which will be an absolute perler of a final match, I reckon, because United will desperately want to win that and believe that Juve are gettable with their league form. But ultimately, United now having a relative X on there, a relative marker on the way they play, and knowing how to get after them, with many teams now being able to fire against them. I think Juve will try and opt for that. As we move to the last game of the UCL that we haven't spoken about, which is Barcelona versus Benfica. Benfica, a team that, I mean, I reckon if I was like a betting odds person, and you had Benfica to keep a clean sheet in the UWCL, I would offer people a house if it was possible. I reckon it would be like 500 to 1 for Benfica to keep a clean sheet. But also, I mean, Barcelona had 40 shots. And you know what? For example, for that bet, you got to give the credit to the goalie, to Benfica's keeper. Well, I forgot her name. What's her name? Lena Pauls. I believe
she won player of the match.
Yeah, correct? And rightfully so. Yeah. 11 shots saved and a penalty save as well. Only copping 3 against Barca is relatively impressive, but ultimately Benfica lose 3-1 to every side in the UWCL, sadly. But when you cop 40 shots, eventually the ball just goes in, and the usual suspects always turn up. And whether it's Alexia setting up Payor, or Caroline, Graham Hansen whacking the ball into the crossbar, Pina whacking the ball into the crossbar from Vicky Lopez setting up both of them. They were, I mean, it was an interesting moment in the game when Benfica made it 1-1 because Mapi,
I thought it was passive defending. I thought everyone was just
we can say it was passive defending. Mapi handles that cross incredibly poorly, and it floods out to the back post, and then the back post gets played across and it's 1-1. But I don't think there was really any jeopardy because Alexia's ball forced the danger, and we had a very slow WOSO Chariots of Fire own goal right there. But
this is what I mean by players deserve. If you're going to get an own goal, players deserve the GA. I think Alexia deserves an assist for the ball.
Goal. For the ball?
Yeah, for the ball. She whipped it in. It was a nice ball. If it weren't for the fact that the player was going to get the own goal, it was eventually going to hit a Barcelona player. So
I mean, if that were the case, then we'd have De Bruyne hitting 20. De Bruyne would have 20 assists in that Premier League season, and Özil would have 19. So the agenda is the agenda when it fits us, and we love it. But Leia Alexandri scoring a very Patry-esque finish.
You reckon Patry-esque?
I think I've just seen Patry too many times on that edge, not edge of the box, but in the scramble from a corner, hit the ball through a myriad of traffic.
I was gonna say Aitana-esque, just the way that she contorts her body around to get it.
The contortion is very Aitana, but I'm just saying the strike, the low driven through the traffic in a corner is very Guiaro. And then, I mean, this penalty, look, Marta Terrayon, again, we have another situation where we're just waiting and penalty, yay. But then, you did call this. I said Lexia scored her last two and you said she's going to miss one. And I just hoped it wasn't in the Nations League final, and it wasn't. But it was today against Benfica and it got saved. And, that was really it, to be honest. That saved penalty kind of ices the show. Ultimately, a 3-1 victory from 40 shots. I don't know what to think, because ultimately they did use their depth. Barca, they did make a few subs in the latter stages.
They made all their subs, correct?
Yeah, which is crazy. And they do sit currently obviously on goal difference at the top of the table in the UWCL with Paris FC to go. They will likely come up against a lower ranked seed, which is that 8 or 9 spot in which is currently Arsenal or Man United, which I absolutely adore, by the way. I cannot wait to see how this playoff turns out, because if Barca end up drawing Arsenal in the knockout stages, I feel like Aitana will be livid, because I feel like she'd want to be there to right the wrongs. But ultimately, that is probably, I'd say you'd prefer to draw Barca than Lyon.
No, I disagree. I disagree. Not only because I'm desperately scared about a Barca that is reactionary.
I guess you've done Lyon before. I guess you have
We've
done
Lyon,
yeah.
Cannon fodder, Lyon.
The remontada, but ultimately this is a new look Lyon. But even if you drew Chelsea now, I think that would be probably if UEFA want to make the most money, it's Chelsea drawing Arsenal in the knockout stage.
You don't think it's Chelsea drawing Barca again? I actually need them to draw each other again. I think it's actually, if there's going to be a Champions League,
I can't do their games again.
Yes,
I'm so jarred and marred. But we are going to do the final thing we're going to do for the UCL roundup is a preview. We have Bayern Valerenga. Obviously, we're going Bayern to Schmeiz. We're going.
How do you know? Don't put words in my mouth, Ben. You
okay,
know.
what do you think is going to happen?
3-1.
That's disgraceful. That's disgraceful behavior. I'm going 5-0. But anyway, I'm going Madrid to whack Twente at home.
I think I'm going to say 2-0 to Real Madrid.
Yeah, fair enough. Another 2-0 in a row. And then, now let's do the marquee games here. Juve versus United. Here we go. In Italy. Here we go. This is the big moment for Skinner, a big moment for United to stay in the running.
That's tough.
Is this it?
I don't know. I'm going to say 2-2.
Yeah, that's a safe call.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 2-1. 2-1 Juventus. I think Juve will turn up early and United will mount a comeback, but it won't be enough. Lyon Atleti at the Groupama Stadium.
I'm actually gonna go. I'm gonna say Atleti. I'm gonna say Atleti going to struggle against Lyon just in terms of just stability. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go 4-1 for Lyon.
Yeah, that's a great show. I was gonna say similar. I was gonna say 3-1. It's just they're scoring 3 goals a game. It's very easy. Leuven v Arsenal.
1-0 Arsenal.
Yeah, fair enough.
1-0 to the Arsenal.
I'm going 2-1 Arsenal. 2-1 Arsenal. I reckon they equalise and it wakes you up. That's what I think. And it's time. I'm waiting. Alessia, score a goal. I beg you. I dare you. If you want to. If you want to actually have, your PR is amazing without scoring anyway. But Paris FC versus Barcelona in Paris.
3-0 Barca.
6-0 Barca. It's going to happen. They're going to end ruthlessly. This is it. Okay, they're so hungry. And then
I thought they were going to game management.
And then the two battle of the bottoms. This is elite. This is as stinky as it gets. Roma
this is going to be the best game of it.
Roma versus St. Polten. I'm going 5-1 Roma.
5-1 Roma?
I think Roma just deliver here. I think Roma will deliver.
Okay, I do think that Roma wins, but I'm going to only say like 3-0.
Okay, fair enough. It's still you're saying clean sheet for Roma. I don't think Roma could keep a clean sheet in the UCL if they try. They're going to play
4 in the back anyway.
This game, I'm going 0-0 because you know what? They're both due a clean sheet in the UCL. But Benfica hosting PSG in Lisbon.
I'm not even joking. Benfica win this game. I'm not even joking. Benfica win it is
Hilarious.
2-1, last minute winner.
I'm going 0-0 from 40 shots. I'm going an absolute shot fest. And then the last, but absolutely not least, VFL hosting Chelsea, ultimately looking like close to a top four securer if either of them win. But if it's shared points, ultimately Chelsea would love shared points at this point.
If it's shared points, does that mean Arsenal have a better chance of going top four?
Not on goal difference, sadly. Unless if Juventus lose to United, yes, you could get top four. 100%.
Okay, because I was going to do.
Valerenga's playing Bayern. You want Wolfsburg. There's no way you could make top four. There's just no way.
You never know. You never know, Ben.
You have to win 14-0 against Leuven. Or Valerenga has to beat Bayern.
Alessio Russo, Sino Blackstenius, double trouble, 6 goals each.
Sure, that's still not enough. You need 14. But I'm going to say VFL have been pretty poor against the topper sides. Yeah. I think 3-1 Chelsea.
I was going to say that, but I'm not going to say that now. I'm going to say 2-1
Yeah, 3-1 Chelsea. I mean, I think Lyon battered them 3-1, so I think it'll be relatively similar. And Chelsea need to pull up their form if they want to hold their position in an absolutely blockbuster UWCL phase that has been amazing. I do like the new structure. I think it is.
No, I hate it.
Yeah,
no.
You hate it? Why?
Because group stages are the best. You're telling me
you Luddite. You Luddite. We get the better matches earlier.
Who cares? The better matches only come about at the end because you've earned it through group stage double headers. It's so much better. It's so much better.
No, disagree. Luddite behavior. I'm loving the new structure. We got to see some amazing group stage games. Juve v Lyon is probably the one that comes to mind the most of the game. Probably the game of the year in the UWCL so far. Though special shout out to Bayern.
I knew you were going to say. I fucking knew you were going to say.
Klara Buhl. But that is all we have for the UWCL this week. Make sure you listen to our WOSO Around the Grounds, our part 1. We are on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, flying around the grounds of the social medias as we move into a very exciting next week with the final match days, and we start looking at playoffs as we get into the end of the year with probably some special episodes as well. We might do some awards and some interesting end of year rigmarole, because that's what the Benchwarmers do. Even if there's no games on, the bench can be warm. But thank you all for listening, and have a great week.